Such a great night for a great horror film, and I certainly don't have one. Greetings, I'm the Count Gore, and welcome to Creature Feature, the weekly web program. You know, with the advent of the reboots of Spider-Man and Batman, these superheroes are virtually indestructible. So I was considering indestructibility, and doing that, I immediately decided to show the movie, The Indestructible Man. Can a man be indestructible? Well, in tonight's movie, Lon Chaney Jr. tests that theory. How does he do that? Well, as you know, this is 1956, and by this time he is wallowing in alcoholism. This is kind of like the low point of his career. And as a matter of fact, it is rumored that during the making of this film, that he instructed the director that he would not tolerate any changes to the script after lunch, which was a meal that he famously drank. Of course, the script solved part of the problem, with the exception of a few lines that you'll hear at the beginning of the film. His role is primarily silent. Of course, we can't blame Lon for everything in this movie. There is enough to go around to explain this turkey. One critic once said that this film is the perfect example of a combination of cliches. We've got a generic gangster, we have generic cops, we have a generic mad scientist, we have generic LA sewers, a generic plot, and a generic conclusion. As a matter of fact, they said the one thing that's really outstanding about this film is it is so generic it can't be offensive. That's pretty low praise. But I'm going to let you make up your own mind, and we'll discuss a little bit more about Mr. Chaney and his career as we get to the first part of our movie, The Indestructible Man, on Creature Feature, the Indestructible program.
Dictating the wrap-up on the Butcher Benton package. I'm Lieutenant Dick Chasen. This hadn't been a routine case, and to find the answer, I've had to put a lot of little pieces together. It began on the day most cases can be called closed. It was the day before the butcher was to be executed. He was visited by his attorney, Paul Lowe, in the death house. It was at this first meeting the Butcher Benton case took its first switch.
Well, that's it, Butcher. The evidence against you was so strong, the governor turned down your appeal.
You're a rotten liar, Lowe. You started wrong, and now you're still trying to throw me curves.
Look, I don't blame you for being edgy, but get this straight. I didn't double-cross you. I never worked harder for a client.
You mean you never worked harder for a client to get him sentenced?
You're a fool, Butcher. If you hadn't tried to double-cross Screamy Ellis and Joe Marcella, they wouldn't have turned state's evidence against you. But you had to get greedy. You wanted to keep the whole $600,000 for yourself. Well, the boys got sore, and I don't blame them.
It was all your idea. You planned the whole job. You hired us. When you found out I'd staged the money, you decided it was time for me to die. You got those 2 crumbs to turn state's evidence on me. You stinking rotten mouthpiece.
We both know that isn't true, Butcher. Now, look, what's the sense in not giving me the money? It's not going to do you any good.
Well, I'll have the satisfaction of knowing that none of you 3 crumbs are going to spend it.
What about Eva? Don't you owe her something? You tell me where the money is, I'll see that she gets your share.
I've got a different idea. I'm going to kill you and Squeamy and Joe. Then I'll take care of Eva myself.
You thick-headed ape, you're going to die tomorrow.
Remember what I said. I'm going to get you. All 3 of you.
Back in Los Angeles, 2 men sat in a bar room listening to a newscaster tell his headline story. He played up big the butcher's threat to kill Paul Lowe, Squeamy Ellis, and Joe Marcelli for their having turned state's evidence against him. Squeamy Ellis didn't seem happy over the butcher's threat. Neither did Joe Marcelli. But they had figured, once a dead man, always a dead man. But this was one time everyone was in for a surprise.
Teletype just came in from San Francisco. Butcher's execution is set for 5 o'clock this afternoon. And like the newspapers say, he still refuses to talk about that stolen money.
Well, I still have hopes of coming up with something.
That's what I dropped by for, Dick. With Butcher's execution, the department's marking it case closed. That means you'll be reassigned.
I spent a whole year trying to break this case. As far as I'm concerned, Butcher's death is just the beginning. Of course, I can't prove it, but I think that Paul Lowe was the top man. And even though I have to keep working on it while off duty, I'm going to get Lowe, Squeamy Ellis, and Joe Marcelli.
Okay, Lieutenant. Officially, I've taken you off of the case. Unofficially, I wish you luck. Do me a favor. Keep me posted.
Will do. Thanks, John. I headed for Eva Martin. She worked in a local burlesque house.
Come in. Oh. What do you want?
I'd like to talk to you.
Talk? You're a cop, aren't you?
That's a good question. I can't even find a 3-ton armored car, let alone the $600,000, and I've been on the case a year.
I've told you, and I've told you, and I've told you. I don't know anything about the money. I never did.
Benton's gonna be dead in a little while. I thought it might make a difference.
I never knew anything about the money. Call me dumb. I didn't even know Charles was in the rackets until the trial.
Now, take it easy, kid.
You're on, Eva.
A few moments ago, Butcher Benton, without revealing the whereabouts of the $600,000 stolen in the armored car holdup, paid for his crimes against society in the gas chamber at San Quentin. Now for a look at the international scene. Today...
Come on, baby. Don't waste tears on Benton.
I feel so badly about Charles. If I'd known, maybe I could have done something.
How about a drink? We could both use it.
No, I just can't drink while she's working.
Boy, see. What's that? Well, now what's the matter?
The message from Charles. He told me to open it if he died.
Finale, Eva.
All right.
How about a steak after the show?
No, thanks. Not tonight, Paul.
I didn't find out until much later, but Paul Lowe, in opening the letter the butcher had given Eva, found a map outlining a section of the city sewer system, and clearly identified was the spot where the butcher had hidden the stolen payroll. He replaced it with a $50 bill. I guess he figured $50 to gain $600,000 was not a bad day's work. 200 miles away in San Francisco, the case took another switch, which turned the next 72 hours into one long, hideous nightmare. Dr. Bradshaw, a distinguished biochemist, was making preparations for a final experiment which he hoped would lead the way to a cure for cancer. He'd been successful with laboratory animals. The last step called for a human body. And Dr. Bradshaw's assistant quickly made a deal with a local mortuary and returned to the laboratory with the dead body of Butcher Benton.
Now wheel him into the machine and then raise him.
Right.
There you are, old boy. If you respond properly and my theory is sound, you'll be more famous dead than alive. Throw the switch.
Wait, I thought I saw a pulsation of the heart.
You're right.
Dr. Bradshaw is beginning to breathe. You've brought this man back to life.
No. The heart muscle has simply responded to a terrific electrical shock, that's all. Yes, but it does prove that the cells still function.
Dr. Bradshaw, he is alive.
A shock reaction, it can't last.
His cells are multiplying now, if your theory is right.
We could keep that reaction going longer. But it's worth a try. Get the body out. Get some adrenaline from the supply room. Some amyl nitrite, too. Hurry. Your heart can't stand the strain. Now you must lie still. Please. Easy now. Easy. You must lie. Easy, please.
Dr. Bradshaw's experiment had given life back to the butcher. He tried to talk, but the electrical voltage had burned out his vocal cords. Yet it hadn't destroyed his brain. He knew who he was. He knew who he hated. As he stumbled about the room, I think he thought only about one: kill Lowe, Squeamy, and Joe Marcelli. Playing tag with Lowe. He made 4 telephone calls. 3 of them didn't interest me, but one did. The one to Joe Marcelli. I watched Joe head for his meeting with Lowe, and for some unknown reason, I began to get the feeling that this case was finally about to explode in my favor.
I need a shot, bad. You'll get one after I talk to you. You sober enough to understand?
Yeah, I run out of dough.
No wonder. Look at you. You used to be the best torch man in town. Now I don't think you could crack a safe if you knew the combination.
No jobs. Nobody wants me since I turned stakes on Benton. That's your doing. You told me.
All right, quit crying. I got a job for you. If you can stay off that stuff long enough.
You know I can if I've got a job. How much? What is it?
It's $2,000 in it for you.
Where?
Right near where he pulled the job. Interested?
$2,000 ain't much out of 600,000.
There'll be other expenses. Besides, that money's plenty of it. Now, you want it or do I get another boy?
I'll do it. How soon do you want me to go to work?
Set it up for tomorrow night. Call me before noon. I'm going to the races. 1. And that's all. The job's over.
The butcher was walking slowly toward Los Angeles. He'd traveled through wooded hills to prevent being seen by anyone. Finally, he came to a quiet road. He stopped to get his bearings. And then he saw her. He saw something else. An automobile.
Well, see, you're a real gentleman to be helping strangers in distress. I hope you don't mind me using the babe here as bait. Quite a dish, isn't she? But that's what she gets paid for. Bait, that is. Yes, sir. She's a real shaker artist of my outfit. Carnival man myself. Just call me Connie. Yeah. Well, friend, we're in a little bit of difficulty here. Got a flat tire, brand new car, no tools in the back. Why, some of these dealers make my carnival grifters look like babes in the woods. Say, who you with, friend? Let it down. Let it down. No matter who you with, friend, believe me, I can do better for both of us. I'll make a fortune for the both of us.
Roadblocks were thrown up to catch the cold-blooded killer the hysterical girl had described. Each squad kept reporting back to Central Headquarters, and each of their stories was the same. So far, none of them had spotted the car the killer was driving. Orders were given to shoot to kill, because from the girls' further accounts, they realized they were dealing with a maniac. The next morning, I read the stories of the brutal murder of the 2 police officers. I also read the witness's statement about the bullets having no effect upon the killer. I felt sorry for the witness, and I thought about how easily a person's mind can become confused when suddenly they receive a brutal shock. I didn't believe a man existed who could not be stopped by a slug from a .45.
Good morning, Captain. You and the rest of the force are going on 24-hour duty. Seen the headlines?
You mean this guy that's running amok up north?
Yeah, the latest report, he's killed 2 police officers. Made a getaway in a green coupe heading south. I've got a hunch this killer's going to be our baby. He could be in town right now.
Yeah.
You better get started, Lieutenant.
Okay. We were wrong about 2 things. The killer was already in our city, and we didn't know he was Butcher Benton. He headed straight for Eva Martin. He went to her dressing room to get back the map he had left in the envelope with her. He wanted first to check his money, then catch up with Lowe and the others.
Can't be. do look like him. Only different somehow. It is you. Why didn't somebody tell me? What's happened, Charles? Those look like bullet holes. Are they? There isn't even a mark. I opened it like you told me. I found the $50. I didn't know why you left him. Oh, Paul didn't know why he was here. Don't play crazy.
The name of Paul triggered his hate. He left her dressing room and started for Squeamy Ellis and Joe Marcelli's place. Because he knew, with them out of the way, Paul Lowe couldn't open the strong box where the money was hidden. He thought of Squeamy and Joe first. He was saving Paul Lowe for last.
I hope you enjoyed the first half of our movie, The Indestructible Man, on Creature Feature, the weekly web program. You know, you got to feel sorry for Lon. I don't think there's any question that here in 1956 he was really at the low point of his career. After all, in this movie. But things kind of picked up a little bit. He got his act kind of together, and by the mid-60s he was doing a lot of television. He seemed to be everywhere. And of course, he also did that remarkable performance of Spider Baby in 1968. But, you know, a lot of people aren't aware that he didn't start off his life as an actor. No. He actually started off as a songwriter. And for a while, he was the advertising manager for a water heating company. And of course, here's this guy. He's the son of this iconic, famous silent film star. I mean, how could you live up to this guy's reputation? And Daddy didn't do him any favors. At one point, Daddy said, you know, Lon, at 6 foot tall, you're just too tall to be a film star. You want to think about poking the guy's ego right there. But you know, again, he didn't go into acting right away, but he didn't go right into films. He actually started on Broadway. Yes, he was a stage actor. And it was one of his favorite roles. People would tell him, what's your favorite role in all your roles? He would say, it was Lenny Small of Mice and Men. He co-starred with Broderick Crawford. As a matter of fact, rumor has it that Broderick, who is kind of a heavy drinker himself, well, that they would go drinking after the show, and that's kind of how he got into the bottle, so to say. But anyway, after a few drinks at parties later on, he'd be more than happy to recite lines from Of Mice and Men. However, he did make it into the films, and he is unique in the standpoint that he's the only man to play all 4 major universal monsters. Of course, he started off with the Wolfman in 1941. He then graduated to The Ghost of Frankenstein, where he played the Frankenstein monster, of course, in 1942. 42 was a big year for him because he went on to do The Mummy's Tomb also. He got wrapped up in that one. And then he continued on into the role of a vampire in, what was that one? Oh, The Son of Dracula, yes. And that was 1943. So he got them all. But we'll discuss more about Lon Chaney Jr. after we go back to see, I guess it's always good to see your low point, and we're not going to see the high point. But we'll see the continuation of his low point in The Indestructible Man on Creature Feature, the weekly web program.